Hello, welcome to another Spiritual Light. Today we have here in the studio our dear friend Silvia Gibbons and our dear friend Elsa Rossi. We're expecting also to have our dear Stevan here with us. He's apparently late, but it's time for us to start. So let's keep it
Yeah.
going.
Once again.
So welcome Silvia, welcome Elsa. It's a pleasure to have you here. Today that we'll be talking about what happens to the soul after death. So would like to hear your initial words, Silvia.
Oh, hello. Good evening, everyone. Nice to have you, Munir. It's a
Thank
pleasure,
you.
and Elsa
Pleasure.
as well, like old times, and in a special day. So, good evening, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. You had a lot of peace and love and lots of roses. And today we're going to talk about the subject, which is very interesting. And it's something sometimes that people like to avoid, but it's a very important subject and it's very important to talk about. So I hope everyone join in and ask questions, make a comment, should be really interesting. So, boa tarde a todos, bom dia, onde quer que vocês estejam, feliz Valentine's Day. E hoje nós temos um tema bem importante e bom de se conversar, que às vezes as pessoas evitam conversar sobre isso, mas é um assunto importante, que é sobre a vida após a morte, porque nós sabemos que a vida continua. Então, bem-vindo a todos e participem do nosso programa, ponham mensagem, façam perguntas, e vai ser muito bom estar com vocês hoje. Olá, Elsa e Munir, que é ótimo estar com vocês novamente. Um grande abraço a todos.
Thanks, Silvia. Elsa?
Oh, hello, my dear friends. Yes, Silvia, it's really a great pleasure to be here once again. So we started 4 years ago, and every moment that we are together talking about this subject, death, after death, it's important because it's something that everyone, each one of us, will undergo in some day. We don't know the future, but it's important to know a little bit why we are here, and for sure we will pass to the other side one day. And the scientists has much more to say, and our philosophy has much more to teach us and to say about. And it is a pleasure to be here with Munir and Silvia. And we are missing Stevan. Stevan, where are you?
Thanks, Elsa. Yes, it is indeed a great pleasure, a great honor to be here and to be back here and share the studio with Silvia, with Elsa, and hopefully with Stevan. Today, our dear friend Charles Kempf couldn't join us. He's got, something urgent and important to do. But, we have a lot to discuss. It's going to be very, very interesting. So, a warm welcome to everyone who is watching us now. So, especially our dear friend Solomon Waters. Solomon is here with us. He's looking forward to this talk. We also have our dear friend Marta Encarnação. Hello, Marta. And we have also Alex Ribeiro. Hello, Alex. Pleasure to have you all here. And also a warm welcome to those who are not here with us right now, but who is going to watch it later. So let's start. This is the only certainty we have in life. The only certainty. Whatever, fortune tellers can tell us about our future in this incarnation, there's only one certainty in all that. We are going to die. We are going to, leave our physical body behind. And what to expect? It's interesting to see nowadays that science, medical area is moving towards a comfortable passage. So we see a lot of doctors specializing themselves in providing the final moments on earth here, on the physical sphere, and making sure that that passage is tranquil, is to a certain extent the best that someone can get. But of course, knowing the other side as well with a spiritist perspective, we can follow the whole process from the moment we start to deliver to um, leave behind our physical body and then enter into the spirit world. So, Silvia, would you like to say something about that?
Sound. Sorry, I didn't realize my sound was off. Wow, it's, as you said, this is the only certainty that we have in life. Absolutely, we were born, we live, and we're going to die. But I think the important point to understand here is that only the physical body dies. We don't die. Our spirit is eternal, lives forever. And this, at the end of this life, of this physical body's life, um, in which we came and we learn some lessons, we try to do the best we can, but we continue. Life starts anew in the spiritual world. So it's not like it's an end, but actually it's a beginning, because we were spirits, spirit beings that were being born. So in reality, when a physical body dies, what happens is that we go home. And I think this is one thing important to understand. So to take away fear of dying and fear of death and fear that everything is going to end, because actually it doesn't end, it starts anew, because we go back home to the spiritual world where our home and our families are and everything. So whenever we lose someone, we suffer. Of course, we have the pain of the loss, but we know we're going to see them again. So it will be a beginning. And it's interesting that in some cultures here on Earth, we have, when people are born, they cry. And then when they die, they make a party, they celebrate the death, because they have this understanding that we are actually going back to through life. And it's the same thing of the ancient Egyptians. I remember someone once making a comment about the Book of the Dead, and they said, oh, the Egyptian people, they live to die. And the whole thing, we've seen the tombs, even the poor people, of course, some of them, but they had a way of, went to the mastabas there and everything. But they took everything to the tombs. Everything they owned that was of value would go to the tombs, because they thought that life was going to be the life, and here was just a period of time. So, and I think we see many cultures on earth now that understand this, that, it's a celebration, the return to the spiritual world. And another thing as well is that once we are there, we will live the life that we actually sought for ourselves. There is no eternal hell and punishment. And I think, unfortunately, some religions have transformed something that was a natural process into something fearful, and I think when the fear of death, of hell, and being eternally punished, and all kind of things, it I think is that's one of the reasons why people fear the act of dying. And and thank God, we have a spiritism that explains to us once and for all there is no reason to fear at all, that we continue living, and we are going to find the life that we created for ourselves. Also, one of the things that's important as well to remember is that we need to build treasure, like Jesus said. You have to have a treasures in the heart, because the treasures that most people understand as treasures are not going to be taken with us. They are going to be very, very far back, and they remain back. I remember once, I think it was Givaldo telling a story of this very, very rich lady in America, I think in Texas or something. And she had this amazing love to this Rolls Royce that she had, which she painted with gold and, was a very special thing. And she wanted to be buried in it. And I remember he made the point that, well, yes, she can be buried in it, but from there on, she's going to have to walk because the car will not go to the next time. And you can imagine, a Rolls Royce filled with gold, how long it stayed in the ground, how it is. So I think that's the important things. And in a way, we need to build our spiritual side, the things that are precious. I mean, like, for instance, like today, it's on Valentine's Day, and a lot of people think it's a thing for lovers, but it's not only for, it's for friends, it's for children, and it's a day of joy. So, I send out little roses to everybody today just because I wanted people to smile and be happy. And, you receive some and you think, oh, somebody thought of me in this day, and you give a smile. And these things are precious. Those are the memories that carry with us. We carry in our lives in the days, the moments that, we have to face difficulties, illnesses, or whatever, because life sometimes is a challenge. Those are the little things that make a day that will give a courage and strength to survive for the next day. So, there is no need to fear death. It's just a process. And it's one of the very interesting things. Sorry, I say this word interesting too many times, but in ancient times, the people had a much more, not close, but a more understanding relationship with death than we do. For them was a natural process, was a transformation. And it's very common to see in temples. I mean, I think in Baalbek, in Lebanon now, was the ancient people, the Baal, they worship Baal. And they have these things that it's like you have these semicircles united, like life and death, life and death, life and death. This process that one thing into the other as a natural process of life. And in many ancient cultures, we have this, almost everywhere. The Neolithic man built tombs, the dolmens that we see all over Europe. And, in a way, it was like a celebration of death, and because they believed that there was a life beyond. And I think that it's something to remember. There is no need to fear, and we can create a better world for ourselves as we get to the other side of life. So I'll leave it there for,
Well,
for
thanks.
everyone.
Very interesting, Silvia. Yeah, indeed. Elsa, your thoughts on that, please?
Yes, Munir, the interesting moment for each one of us is really to take a moment to think about life and death. The way that we are using our time here, the way that we are preparing for the future, that is an investment for the future, because when we pass to the other side, we will be the same person as we are here now. If I am attached to the material things, I will pass over the other side and still will be attached. So I was watching a video today, I forgot the name of the doctor, that he was talking about the bad death, the person that is really dying. But the last thing, I think it was you, Munir, that told me that when we were talking today, the last thing in the body that stays is listening. So someone in your family are in bed or in hospital dying, or in other places, we have really to take care what we are saying, because the person that is there is already almost dead, it for me is dead, is still listening what we are saying. That is the way that you have really to care about. And never encourage someone to die, but only stay beside the person, saying good things, encouraging to face with freedom of the body. That is this passage that we call death. But it's not death for the spiritual world. It's born in spiritual world. Because when we born here, a lot of people are around us, smiling, chatting, happiness, etc. When we die, a lot of people are really crying, etc. But the other side, people are waiting for us, waving with a smile and the hugs and the happiness when we really prepare ourselves, because we can really not bother about our spiritual life here and there. And of course, it will be difficult for us to face this challenge, to face a new life, a new existence in the spiritual side, because we are immortal beings. We don't die because the body is dying. We cannot anticipate our death, never. Never euthanasia, never suicide, never abortion, never, never, and never. Because we are going against the natural laws, against the God laws, and we know that there's a lot of research from scientists, from researchers, about what's going on beyond. We, as a spiritists, that we are learning and studying this philosophy, we have a lot of things really clarifying us and preparing us for the spiritual world, for the continuation. We have mediums that are painters, as Florencio Anton, showing us the immortality of the soul. We have automatic writing, wonderful books dictated by the spirits. We have our 5 or 7 or 36 books from Allan Kardec that organize everything from the spiritual world. So the life goes on, and the life goes on for sure. But the way that we be prepared in this incarnation, in this existence, show us the way that we'll be wake up there. Né, Munir? You have a lot of things to say as a physicist.
Yeah, yes, it's true. And it's interesting to see that the medical field now is creating, I don't know how long, it has existed as such, but medical doctors are specializing in the last moments to provide comfort and assistance so that people will, in their own words, they will release the person. So it's interesting, this word release. You're releasing something. So this something may go on. And also, on top of that, when you specialize and you follow so many patients at the death, bed, at the last moments here, you then get in touch with near-death experience. Many of them have this experience. So you start to see something that goes beyond that physical death of the body, an experience that some of them, they have different explanation for that, but they start to get in touch with an experience that will lead our physical science into the new realm that spiritism brings to us with a great deal of information. The physical world is like a lump in our custards. It's something that is dense. It's a small, but it's part of the whole. So our physical world, our dense world, and of course our physical body is part of a much greater experience that we go through. So as you said, Elsa, our life in the spirit world is and was before our birth here, and will be after we die here in the physical world, a continuation. That is the real world. Here, the condition we have here on earth is like a bubble, a lump in our custard. And, we experience this for a while. And when we talk about death, our sciences will take us to those final moments, these experience of near death, and what people tell about that, those who came back, but also what we see in Spiritism is the other side. And then I would recommend a book which is fantastic in terms of the account of people, because many people say, well, I don't believe in the afterlife because never no one came back to tell me what it is. And that is not true. If we take the book Heaven and Hell, codified by Allan Kardec, part 2 is packed with spirits telling us about their experience, spirits who are in different conditions. Some of them were already happy, some of them were average, some of them were suffering spirits, and even those who committed suicide, what they experience in that transition. And it's interesting that the Parisian society and the members of the Parisian society, they evoked spirits before they were buried. And they came and they told people about their experience, what they were experiencing and what they saw and the phases. And the conclusion we get is that when we release the body, we enter into states of numbness. And those descriptions that we find with people who experience near-death experience, that it is an experience, but is not the full reality of the spiritual world. This is an experience that is provided for those who are getting away from the body, but not completely released from the body, still attached to the body. We know that can happen. At night, when we sleep, we may go somewhere else. We are not detached from our body. We're just away from our body, but we're still very much connected to our body. So we see that this process that is described in Genesis, but we have the account from different spirits in the book Heaven and Hell, tells us that there is a natural process of detachment, because we are a spirit with a spiritual body, the perispirit, and a physical body. When we die, we just get rid of the physical body, but there is a natural process in that will cause us certain sensations. We become confused, we fall asleep, but the duration of that and what we experience, what we live from this experience, will vary from one person to another. One is a very particular experience. The process is similar, the duration varies, and the experience that each one of us has also varies. But the process of detachment is one where we first start to see beyond our physical senses, and then we fall asleep while we are actually ending this detachment from the body. And some spirits who are not too spiritualized, they stay attached to the body, feeling the sensations of the body, close to the body, close to their belongings here in the physical world for a long time. But that process is actually, as Elsa said, depends very much on the degree of awareness, or even the degree of spiritualization of that person. So we experience different things, although we go through a similar process, a process of detachment. As Kardec puts in the book Genesis, when we are born, our perispirit attaches itself to the body, to the physical body, to the developing body, molecule by molecule, cell by cell. So we are very much attached to the body, although we have the freedom to leave the body and come back, but we are still connected to this body, which is, some people call it in astral traveling or detachment or whatever. But when we die, we have first this experience, detaching ourselves from the body, but then disconnecting permanently from the body. And this is a second step in this process. First, we become aware of the presence of our loved ones, of spirits around us. And then we go into this numbness or, sleep states. And then slowly we wake up. And then when we wake up, we start to perceive the spirit world around us. And of course, depending on our level, this is a faster or a longer process, depending on each one of us. So it's really interesting to see from both sides, since we have the information from spiritism. And then comes the question, Silvia, Elsa, what is the influence of the moral, of the degree of spiritualization of the individual? If this is a natural process, we know it interferes. So in your views, how is this interference taking place? For instance, I'm someone very much spiritualized, a very good person, and why would this process, be easier and less painful than, for someone body? Who would like to comment first? Silvia, Elsa?
Yeah, do you want to do it, Elsa?
Silvia,
Okay.
go on, Silvia.
Okay. I think this is that there is a whole process. I think one thing to understand is that when we are born, there is a group of spirits that work in the reincarnation. As you were mentioning, our body, our physical body, is united to a spiritual body at the moment of conception. That's why it's important, the maintenance of life at a very early stage. And we are connected molecule by molecule to our physical, to our spiritual body. So when we are born, we have this body and also we have our spirit. And this process happens as well when we die. There are also spirits that are specialized in the spiritual world in disconnecting the body, because there is a whole process of disconnection, because this also is going to be disconnected molecules by molecules. It's a funny noise, isn't it? Let's see if it's mine. Is it better? I disconnected my it is a whole the group of spirits as well, specialists in the disconnection in the moment of death and separating our physical body from our spiritual body. And this is a very sort of slow process. But I think, as you both mentioned before, it will depend on the moral development of the person, of each individual. The people who have really and truly within them cannot accept that there is life after the physical body, that there is nothing. Some of them go to sleep and they will sleep for a long time. But it's interesting because while they sleep, they dream the life all the time. And it takes quite some time for them to wake up. But the more, and as you were saying as well, we go. And I think Elsa mentioned it, that whatever we have created in this life, that's what we take with us. So all the good that we've done, or all the not so good that we've done, that's what we carry with us. And it will depend where we go from there. And each person is different. But then the more spiritualized person, someone who's really, truly of a very high moral, and they have great knowledge of spirituality and a sound knowledge of spiritual life, they almost disconnect themselves. So their process of dying is very quick and less painful, and they almost disconnect themselves. But then the spiritual benefactor that are responsible for that will come and close and finish up. And I think this the one of the important points is that for us to be alive, we need what we call the vital fluid, the vital principle that makes us, a physical body, alive. And this is an energy in our body that leads us until the very end. And even though we might be quite elderly, or sometimes people get very sick before they die, and they die because of some illnesses they have. There is always a little bit of this energy that is left in the body. And once the body is disconnected, the spirit is disconnected from the body. It's released, and only remains the spiritual body with the spirit. This energy needs to be taken out of the body. And the spiritual benefactors that are working towards this, they come and they cleanse this energy, which is gone back into the universe, and the body will immediately, once this is done, the body almost immediately starts deteriorating and decomposing. And I remember I had this friend who was studying medicine, and talking about how working with bodies and that kind of thing. And she said to me, it's funny because you go to people and you don't see a human being. The body is so different. They don't seem to have anything really that makes them alive. It's very strange to look at them. It's like looking at a doll. And I think, for maybe she was lucky enough to have seen a person who had been completely disconnected, and in which the last remains of the vital fluid had already been taken out as well, and the body was completely there, because, as you said, many people, especially if they are afraid of death, or if they feel that their life is not complete, or they haven't done everything they need to do, they can get stuck to the body. And this is something that is very, very sad, and causes a lot of pain and stress. You mentioned the book Heaven and Hell, but also there is a very important book written by Dr. Carl Wickland called 30 Years Among the Dead. And he talked about, because he talks about in the book about when he was still a medical student, and then afterwards, and the many experiences that they had. And I remember one of the stories that he said, his colleagues, he came in one day a little bit later, and his colleague said, "Oh, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to touch that body." No one wanted to. And the teacher said, "You must, because, you're here to exercise." And everybody said, "Oh, no, I want." And nobody, there was a body there that no one wanted to go near it. And I mean, he wasn't aware of it, but he had mediumship, and he had a clairvoyant mediumship, for that matter. And he actually could see the spirit next to the body and said, "Nobody's going to touch me." And that, even though nobody could see him, they could feel his vibration, that they were pulling them away. He didn't want his body to be touched. And so he went next near the body, and he started talking to him. Was a person, I think he had been a janitor in a building or something. And he said, "No, you're dead, you're not in that body anymore." And the interesting thing was that his wife was a medium. So he used to take all the spirit to his house, that for his wife to talk to them and say, "You're dead now," and she would help them to find their way. Actually, it was quite interesting work. But and I think another point as well that was mentioned by you, or Elsa, I think was Elsa, when you are in a funeral. And according to André Luiz, you either pray or keep quiet. Try as much as possible to be in a very good, positive thoughts, sending a lot of love and vibrations to that person. And I remember in one of the André Luiz books, I can't remember now which one, there's a funeral. And the spirit still there. I mean, he was a good man. He had a very good life. He was very respected, and a lot of people cared for him. And, they were upset and everything. And the spiritual benefactors were there with him, helping, but he was still around in his funeral, to saying goodbye to everyone who was there. And then one person started talking to another, saying, oh, he died, but he never knew that this had happened. And something had happened, and but it was completely finished, never again mentioned. And people had their own lives, but he didn't know, and he heard it in his funeral, because somebody was was gossiping, talking about things that, he never knew this and that. So he was there being quite frivolous and talking about things that should have been and had been forgotten for years and years, but it completely destroyed his peace, because he felt really bad. And it for the spiritual benefactors that were there helping him, he had helped him in the transition and the disconnection of the body. It was really very, very difficult for them, because they completely dismantled him in finding out something that had happened that he had never known. So this is very important. If we go to a funeral, you pray or you say something positive about the person, or you keep quiet, even your thoughts, because the spirits can read your thoughts. So if you're not, really willing to do that, it's better for you not to go. And actually, it was a thing that Andre Luis says in the end, when he was describing the suffering that came upon this man, that he was completely happy before. He said sometimes it's better if you die as like a homeless person in the middle of the road, that no one knows you, because then nobody's coming to your funeral to gossip and can create so much problems. It's happier to do this. And I think just another point as well that's important for us to remember, that to die is easy. The process of discarnation is what is difficult. And it's the process of the discarnation, is the disconnection of a physical body from our spiritual body, molecule by molecule. And this energy, the vital fluid that still remains in the body, has to be released and sent out to the universe, and the body begin to decompose and become other things as well. Nothing is wasted, goes back as well to the molecules and becomes something else. So everything is renewed. So this is very important. This process of discarnation we shouldn't be afraid of, and we should really be careful when we go to people's funerals. So sorry if I
No, wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah,
it's
you've mentioned some very important aspects, and we are made out of stardust, because our planet is made of stardust, and our body as well, because it is composed by ingredients, as it were, from this planet. So, and when we we leave it behind, it will return to where it came from. This is natural, It's the spirit that is the key aspect in all this, and the progress the spirit can make. And another important point, yes, many spirits are allowed to be at their funeral, and they are aware. They are not sometimes fully discarnated, as you mentioned, detached from the body. That will happen afterwards. Some of them describe, yes, I was at my funeral, and all of them, happy spirits, average spirits, suffering spirits, they mention how important are prayers from those who pray for them sincerely, with the sincerity, with love, all of them. And we see suffering spirits coming to the meeting and asking for prayers. Please pray. There is a case in the book Heaven and Hell of a suffering spirit. He comes every week to ask the medium to go to his to the cemetery and pray there, close to his body, for him. It's really interesting, because he's undergoing tremendous suffering. He's not detached from the body. I think he committed suicide, And every time he comes in this suffering and asks the medium, go there and pray for me, pray for me. And they pray there. And he says, oh, it's wonderful. I start to feel better, but go and pray for me. So this is also very important. And another aspect is the fact that there's a case of a materialistic person. He was a very materialist, and his brother as well. But this guy committed suicide because he believed in nothing. He said, well, I'm not getting satisfaction from my life. I'll cut it short. And then he was suffering. And he said the greatest moral suffering for him, because our body suffers, the body, because some people say, oh, what I fear in death is the pain I'll have to go through. And the spirits, they are adamant. You don't feel the physical pain once you are, released, when you are detached from your body. You suffer while you were there. Once you start the process of discarnation, you won't feel the physical pain anymore. But so in this case, who was this guy? And he said, the greatest moral suffering I underwent was because I was forced to accept the existence of God, something I denied all my life. So the reality I had to face was completely the opposite to what I, sort of stuck to throughout my entire life. And he said, it is a burning sensation to, your ideas, how would I say, he was kind of stubborn. He, was thinking, too much, that, he had the final word, and that was it in full, and he had to experience something totally different. So for these spirits, that was the most painful. He said it's almost like a burning inside. And also he had committed suicide that aggravated his situation. His brother was in a similar situation, but he wasn't as bad as this guy, because he didn't commit suicide. He returned to the spiritual world in a natural way. So but still he also had to face this, because he was also very much attached to the physical world and not believing in God or anything. So we see how important it is, this preparation. And the fact that Spiritism tells us about a part of this universe that while in the physical body, we are not aware of most of the time. Not that we are not aware of, but most of the time. And I think these experiences of people, near-death experiences, and so much research that is going on today, showing that there is something more than that, we'll somehow prepare people for that. If they are not familiar
Actually,
with the
there
spiritism, at
is
least they, yes, yeah. Go on, Silvia. Yeah.
sorry, Munir, there is a question here from Martha.
Yeah.
And she says, person cognition surrounding awareness in the last moments of life when they are heavily drugged. Say, for instance, morphine to alleviate pain. The spirit, the influence of this as well. Not the spirit, but the spiritual body, yes. Yes, they if they are very heavily drugged with morphine, whatever it is, yes, the spirit, the spiritual body will be affected by that as well. Yes.
To
And
a
then she
certain
has another
extent,
question.
Sylvia, because there are many reports of people who are undergoing surgery, and their brain is is completely out of service as such, and they follow their surgery, the surgical procedure. They know everything. They are aware of everything that went on, who went into the operating theater, what the doctors were talking. They're listening to some music. So it has
Yes,
some impact, but yes, it is limited.
they do,
It
but I
is,
think it's in a different
yeah.
way, isn't it, Munir? Because when the person is having an operation, they can detach from their bodies. But the person who is in the process of death, I mean, Elsa maybe can come in that as well. The person who's in the process of death, the body is already, not really disconnected very much. And if the body is heavily drugged, then the spirit, the spiritual body will be very heavily drugged too. There is an effect on them. They will sleep. And I think you see that actually in one of Andrea Louis' books, that the person who had the euthanasia and he went to sleep, and it was extremely difficult then for the spirits to work with, to detach his body and his spirit and everything. And then she said, what is the effect of prayer to a spirit? Maybe Elsa would like to answer this question to her. Elsa, what's the effect of prayer to the spirit?
It's like you are in the middle of a desert and someone offered to you a cold drink water. It looks like that. It's a relief because prayer is from our thoughts. Our thoughts is the most powerful energy in universes. We can use our thoughts much more than we think to achieve goals that you perhaps you say, no, we'll never do that. But with your powerful thoughts for goodness, you will achieve because the benefactors potentialize your prayer to help someone. It is a charity, and charity moves our hearts towards our awareness of life. And you must do that. And also, as we have people from all over the world watching this live now, I'd like to say to you all, 3 weeks ago was released the film No Solar 2, The Messengers, based on the book of Andrea Luiz, The Messengers. And is an amazing film. It's teaching us about death, about after death, where we are going when you are really a bad person in this incarnation. You are bad towards other people. You are someone that's not doing good and always linked with material things. So this film is showing us about life after death, the umbral or other places, as we had in the first one, the solar one. And 1 million people in 2 weeks watched this film. That means the entire humanity need to feed their souls with clarity of what's going on in our existence and after that. So everyone has curiosity to know more about, but so little people really go immersed in spirituality in order to learn about, to increase the awareness about to take care the body and the soul, not only the body. Because when we read, I think is in André Luiz books as well, and also in Heaven and Hell, the second part. We know that the someone that was only carrying the body and the operations they make here and there, here and there, here and there, that at 90 years old wants to be as a 28 years old, etc. When die, is completely attached to the body, and they stay there and see the body, the worms taking over of the body, the physical body. That is a suffering that only in leadership meetings or only in churches or people that are praying for the soul, the ghost and the souls that are in this situation can help to relieve them, to make them wake up to the spiritual side, spiritual world, and go for help in the spiritual world. Oh,
Yeah.
Stevan, I was missing
Hello,
you.
Stevan.
Hi, Steven.
Hey, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you for
I'm
this.
sorry. My battery in the phone died, and my brother's flight was late, so it was a nightmare.
No
Okay, it's
problem.
nice that you're there now anyway. But
Yeah.
just one point, what you were saying, Munir, before just
Yeah.
reminded me. A friend of mine, her mother-in-law,
One more.
was quite elderly, And she didn't really, I mean, she was a really good person. She was a really nice person, helped a lot of people and everything, but she didn't believe in God, you know. And my friend took care of her till she passed away. And I think about 2 weeks after she passed, my friend had a dream with her. And she said to her, I came to tell you God exists, you know. I just want you to know that God exists, because my friend would always pray for her. You know, she was grateful, but she didn't quite believe. And then she said, I had to come here to tell you God exists, you know. He really does. So it's interesting, you know,
Yeah, it is.
something like that.
You know, there is a case of someone who was about to die. He was about to die. He had a sort of near-death experience. He came back just to tell his family that he was wrong, that God existed. And forget what I said all my life, you know, the reality is different. Then he returned to the spirit world. And when, you know, doing an evocation, he came and they asked him, what was the purpose of that? And then he said, you know, it was important that I changed at the last minute, but I changed and made all the difference on the other side, you know. So this is really important. It's really, really important for us to prepare ourselves in that sense. It's not just a question of you know, no, won't make any difference. In doubt, it's better to believe in something, because if there's nothing after, it won't make any difference. But if there is, and you are on the wrong side, then you know it may mean trouble, you know, to you. So yeah,
Frozen.
Great.
Everybody's
yeah.
frozen.
Okay. So Stevan,
So my 2 cents is say thank you again. Yes,
no problem. If you have any
it's
announcement or you know
And the show.
to make or anything,
I'm not prepared for
no
anything.
problem.
I just I just
No problem.
plug in, but I want to say
Okay. But that's
thank you
wonderful that
all.
you made it.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you for
Good
the
to see you.
contribution. I bet it was a good show. Uh,
If I can say something, only to remind that Florence Wanton, the medium that paint a lot of wonderful portraits from the spiritual side, Renoir, Van Gogh, Toulouse, etc. Will be in London. He's in Spain now, I think Portugal, but for several places. That is the way to show as well the immortality of the soul, because the spirits are teaching us, and the workshop that will be here will be wonderful as well. So that is a reminder.
Yeah. And this coming Sunday, we have the final, or the fourth part of Charles's presentation about the autobiography of Camille Flammarion. So it was initially going to be just one talk, but in the end it was so interesting. There was so much information about this you know, important figure in spiritism, and not just in spiritism but also in science, in astronomy. So that Charles in the end, he, you know, split into 4 presentations, and this Sunday 7 p.m. London time, he will give the final talk on Camille Flammarion and his biography.
this is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, it's a very interesting topic. I think everyone has doubts, and you know, and has something that, you know, would like to clarify, and I hope we manage to at least answer a couple of answers, or you know, show them the direction, the right direction. But I would advise people, if they can read, you know, can get hold of a copy of Heaven and Hell, or 30 Years Among the Dead, which is also a very nice book, and see what, you know, spirits they have in common to tell us about their return to our homeland, the spiritual world, and what they experienced during the transition and after that. And
And there is the
also,
book as well of Dr. Edith Fiore.
Yeah.
That she wrote also about the dead, the people who had died and everything, because opposite of what people think, they're not dead, they are alive in a different dimension. And I think this is something very important for us to remember. And we go to the places, there are hellish places in the spiritual world, absolutely, and there are heavenly places as well, but we go where our mind is. So if we created a world here on earth of goodness, of charity, of kindness, we go to a place where there is kindness, where there is love. And if not, we go to the places where we lived. And I think something to think about is our thoughts are extremely powerful, and they create images. It's creative energy thoughts. So we need to learn to discipline it, think things that are positive, and I try not to get involved with negativity. And I think, like Martha asked about prayer, and Elsa said it's like a glass of water to a man in the middle of a desert. That's how we should think about our dead. Of course, we do suffer. Um, we suffer the loss of a loved one, that goes and dies before. Um, and our understanding about spiritism, that life continues, that you're going to see them again, does not diminish the pain of loss that we feel when we lose a loved one. I think we need to be very clear on this. And sometimes we cry, and it's fine. You need to mourn the people who have gone. Of course, I think one of the things that spiritism does, it helps us to understand that's not the end, that person leaves. It gives us that support and that strength when we lose someone. But the pain of loss is exactly like of anybody, and I think we need to honor that. Because sometimes, spiritually, you shouldn't feel because that life continues. It doesn't matter, if you have a child and when they go to university and they're moving out of the house for the first time, you feel that, don't you? When a friend, someone you care for, and they move away or they have to go, you feel their absence, you feel their loss. They're alive, they're well, they're happy, but you still miss them. And I think that's one of the things we need to understand. The fact that spiritism teaches us and gives us that support does not diminish the pain of the loss, and we need to honor it. It's important for the person who dies and for the person who stays, that period of mourning, and then of
Yeah.
course you get on with life. And this is something maybe at one another talk we could talk about, this importance of the funeral and the honor of the person who's leaving, because it's very, very important, even though in our society, that period is still very, very important. That process of the funeral and the dying and the saying goodbye to the loved ones. So
Yeah. And I wouldn't say loss, Silvia. I would say a temporary separation.
temporary separate.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yeah. Yes, but I mean,
Because you feel love.
sometimes
Yeah.
you feel that
Yeah. 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 That's
I
the what you
mentioned the
feel.
sense of loss. It's a
Yeah.
temporary,
Yeah.
but there is a sense of loss within
Yes.
us.
Yes. Yeah. Of emptiness. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they are here. They are connected. They are. It's just us being aware of that.
Yeah, what we
They.
should not do is call them back and, oh, don't go, we stay here, because
No.
we make
Yeah.
them suffer then. But
Yeah. No. No.
um,
Yeah.
to honor,
And just to
Yeah.
remind everyone, the topic for next week, it
Yep.
is spiritual intelligence.
Very
okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
it
Okay.
is spiritual intelligence. So shortly we will share um, the details.
Okay. All right. So, Stefan, if you want to end the program, so it's all
Me?
We
yours.
ready.
Yes, please.
Just gone so
So
quickly.
It did. Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
I just
so
realized.
thank you for the astonishing job you did And thank you, Elsa, for sharing your thoughts, Munir, for your availability,
It's always a
Silvia, for
pleasure.
the partnership. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Martin Encarnação, our friend Saul Waters, Julia Canhete, Realia Romo, Alexis Ribeiro. Let me see what more. I want to say thank you to Marlene Miranda, Jefferson Silva, our Vanessa Celoni, Marcio Reggiani. So thank you all. This is so
Bye,
important for
Sol.
us.
Goodbye. Nice to have you with us today.
Yeah, so nice to have you out here. This is an important topic. It's good to spread this to everyone, and we are not here to convince anybody. We're just here to show the facts. It's up to you to decide what you're gonna do. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
again.
Thank you.
Have a
Good night.
lovely,
God bless.
lovely
And once
evening.
Bye
again,
bye.
very
Bye
happy
bye.
Valentine.
Happy
Happy
Valentine's.
Valentine's, everyone. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
God bless. Bye bye.